Ladies and gentlemen, the man we welcome to the stage doesn't just speak because he wants to. He speaks because he was called to. Receiving life's messages is part of who he is, and spreading them is what he's meant to do. Without further ado, Wayne Looney.
Thank you for joining me. I hope everyone is doing well out there. I am doing great. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that has been on all of our minds, and that is the year 2020. It has been one hell of a year, hasn't it? And I think with everything that is going on and is still going on in 2020, a lot of us are quick to write off this year and say, you know what, this year doesn't mean anything. I can't wait for this year to be over in order for me to move on and finally start to accomplish some of the things that I might have had in mind this year. However, today I'm going to be speaking about why 2020 still matters and why we can't write this year off. I think the biggest thing to understand about 2020, in order for us to fully be able to comprehend everything that has happened this year and everything that is still going on, is that we have to look at life in a way that everything happens for a reason. I wholeheartedly in my soul believe everything that happens for a reason. And I believe that because a lot of things in my life have happened. I didn't know why they happened. And when I look back, they have put things in place that have made sense. And now I can go back and say, wow, that if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at, or I wouldn't be who I am, or I wouldn't have gotten or ran into or met or received some of the things that I did receive exactly when I needed them. So I 100% wholeheartedly believe everything happens for a reason. And when you look at life in that way, you can also look at 2020 in that way. Now, let's just talk about how this year started, right? I would say that the year started pretty normal for everyone. Come the first year, everyone had their goals and plans for 2020. Well, then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, a lot of us were really unsure, didn't really know what to expect. But as it continued to spread and as states and businesses and things started to close down, a lot of people started to panic. And we saw that when people started to go to stores and buy out toilet paper. We got gun sales that have risen over 40% over that time span. And people really started to panic and people really started to get afraid. And I think the more that started to happen and the more things started to close down and the more we were being put in a position to have to quarantine, a lot of people became fearful. And I think that that's pretty normal. Whenever we're dealing with something that is unusual or unfamiliar to us, it's common for us to feel fearful. When we feel fearful, that's typically when we panic. And with COVID, we had that from this year. Obviously, it is a presidential election year, and I know that that can bring a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure for people who are highly involved in politics and or who are highly involved in things of that nature. We also have a lot of different things being altered by COVID. Some of us who are parents, our kids are at home with us, and we're kind of put in a position where, depending on what state you're in, schools were closed down for the remaining of the year. So not only did a lot of parents have to find a way to teach their kids, they also had to find a way to also still work and also still make a living. So I know that that's been tough. And I've heard a lot of celebrities, I've heard a lot of people in professional sports, I've seen a lot of people in positions of influence could be so quick to write off 2020. And I think that that's unfortunate. If you ask me, I think it's unfortunate because these are leaders. These are people in our society, people in our communities that we look up to. And when they're so quick to write off 2020, then it's easy for us everyday people who are on the ground level to really want to write off 2022. I think a lot of what's happened this year has been almost, in my opinion, it's been, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's been pushed upon us. I think a lot of the information we receive, a lot of the panic and a lot of the fear that has been instilled in us about COVID has been pushed upon us. And once again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, I am the type of person that does not watch the news. I am not involved with politics. I do my best to even stay off of social media because I don't like to get caught up in the whirlwind of all the information that's always been thrown at us. And I think that if you get caught up in the whirlwind and you always pay attention and you always grasp to everything that's being given to you by the media, by social media, on TV, by people that we like to look up to as leaders, then I think that it is very easy for you to be misled. I don't pay attention to those things because I've realized over time that if there's information you need to know, you're always going to receive it because people are going to tell you things that you should know, right? During a casual conversation, if there's something going on in the world that I need to be aware of, someone's going to tell me that, or I'm going to hear people around me talking about it when I go to the store or when I go to public places. And for me, that has been enough. I have been able to stay informed without watching the news, without paying attention to my timeline, because I listen and I pay attention to my surroundings. And I think that a lot of us can do the same thing. We can stay informed without getting too caught up by just paying attention and being aware of the things that people are talking about. However, if you get too deep in those things, you can get caught up and you can be one of those people who feel the fear and who feel the panic and who really feel like 2020 has been a wasted year. I don't believe 2020 has been a wasted year. I think that 2020 has been a year of observation. There's been a lot of things that have happened. Like I said, if we talk about COVID, we got different wildfires going on in the West. We got different things going on with hurricanes. There's just a bunch of stuff that's going on right now. I think it's important that we observe those things. And I think that those things are important because right now, I feel like we as humans, and right now in our society, there are a lot of things that are in place that no longer work. And I feel like as we observe some of the things that are going on in the world, we can see now, based off of some of the pandemic and some of the crises we found ourselves in, that there are things that are in place that do not work. I believe that all of this is happening because it is meant to bring light to the things that no longer work for us. If we look at the judicial system, if we look at schooling, if we look at the way our employers view us as employees and how work and school and how everything has been structured, I think if we look at it closely, we see that a lot of it is outdated. And a lot of it hasn't worked for us for a long time, but we never took a close look at it because we didn't have to. Now we're having to take a close look at those things. If we look at the way that humans have communicated over the last 5 to 10 years, we can say that maybe that hasn't been the best, right? When we get on social media and we see people, how we communicate and talk to one another, I feel like it's really felt disconnected. And I feel like a pandemic and this type of thing happening where we have to quarantine, it has made us better communicators. We really think about the people who are quarantined and we found different ways to connect with one another. That's important that we've learned that. People who otherwise have never had a chance to be able to work from home are now having a chance to work from home because of the pandemic. So it's important that we can look at the light side of everything and figure out why it's happening. Now, going back to my original point, I believe that right now, we as a whole, humanity, is coming to an awakening. I think that all of this is happening is because humans right now are meant to learn a greater lesson, much like in our regular life, we have to face that adversity. And if we face adversity, we come out the other side of it better and more informed and more wise. Right now, I believe humanity as a whole is being faced with that. And the reason why I believe that is because everything that's happening, and as you observe it, you start to see a greater lesson in it all, right? Like I said with COVID. Now we're relearning the value of being connected to one another. We're relearning why it's important to stay connected. If we look at some of the work-related things, the school-related things, we can look at it and say, okay, now I'm being taught that work isn't necessarily always as important as family. And a lot of us have had to be quarantined and in the house with our families, and we've had to relearn that value. And that's why I think that right now we're being led to a greater awakening, because human beings have been unconscious sometimes with our behavior. And the more that we get caught up in technology, the more unconscious we have become with one another. So we're relearning some of the things that we otherwise have lost sight of. I do 100% believe humans are being led to a greater awakening because of everything that we're going through right now, because of how the world has looked. We even have the civil unrest. I think that there's a lot of things that have been in place with people's perspective as far as ethnicity, as far as race, as far as skin color, that a lot of people knew was there, but it was something that wasn't going to be addressed. And now with everything going on, it's being confronted head on. And I think that that's important, right? That's important for growth. Right now, we as a human race are being confronted. And I think that it's fair to say that we all somewhat feel uncomfortable right now with everything that we're being confronted with. And I think that that's important because it's in our discomfort that we find growth, and it's in adversity that we are able to gain more wisdom. Right now, we are coming to an awakening. We as humans have been disconnected from our true purpose. I don't care what religion you believe in. I don't care if you believe in religion at all. I don't care if you believe in a higher power or if you think that this life is the only life that you'll ever live, and after this is done that you'll go to the ground and there won't be anything left. I don't care if you believe that. The important thing is that as a human being, regardless of what you believe, is that you realize that we're all supposed to be connected. And you see that in everyday life. Every person, no matter who they are, no matter what they do for a living, no matter what lifestyle they live, they want to feel connected to someone. And that's why a lot of us migrate to groups. We all want to be a part of something. And I think we have lost sight of the fact that we as human beings, each one of us is connected to one another, and we're all part of a greater thing. And that greater thing is this earth and the energy and the space that we create here for one another. We're all connected. It's important that we know that. And right now, that's the greater lesson that we're all being taught. And I think that if you can start looking at life and start looking at 2020 that way, it helps you be able to realize, you know what, maybe this is not a year to write off. Maybe this is a year for me to grow and to expand. And right now, we've all been put in our own individual space. We've all been forced to look at our life as individuals. And if we want to make a change for humanity as a whole, it starts in our own household. It starts inside of each one of us, and it starts there. And we can all take this time to expand and grow and to move past things and just look at our own life and say, you know what in my life has just been on autopilot? What in my life is not working right now that I can take a closer look at and change? And when we, each one of us, start doing that, when all is said and done, we're all going to have grown and expanded as a whole. But it starts with each one of us. And I think that that's the important thing to know. I believe 100% that there's always a positive outcome with everything. And I think that everything always benefits each one of us if we can take a close look at it. Right now, the way that things have transpired in 2020, I believe that we're all being put in that position for a reason. And I believe that there's a greater outcome. What we used to know as normal is no longer normal for us. And what is yet to come is going to be greater than what we have experienced now. I 100% believe that. And when we get to that point, we're going to be able to look back on it and say, you know what? I see why all of this has happened. I see why 2020 went the way that it did, because now look at the new space that we all get to live in. I like to look at 2020 similar as you would look at a home renovation. You see things in your house that are outdated. You see things that you want to be able to change. You see things that could be better. And when you actually go through the home renovation, things get messier before they get clean. And things start to look worse before they look better. We are going through a similar transformation in our world right now where things look messy, things look worse than they've ever have. Things don't look as good as we believe that they can. However, it's all part of the world's renovation. And I think that we just have to be patient with that. We have to trust the process. We have to understand that right now we are going through growth, and growth can be messy. Growth can be painful. However, when we finally get to the other side, how things look and how we live and how everything is going to be for us is going to be worth it. So hold on. Don't be so quick to write 2020 off. Continue to move forward, continue to work, continue to look within yourself and use this time to grow and to progress. I promise we're never led to anything we're not supposed to make it through. And we're never put in a position for us to fail. I know it may feel like that sometimes. And I'm not saying that everything in your life is going to be perfect. I'm not saying that everything in your life is going to go the way that you expect it to. What I'm saying is we're being led to something for a reason. And we have to be able to trust that. We have to be able to trust everything in our life. And we have to be able to trust every outcome, because everything is meant for us to grow. And I believe that if we as a society and we as a human race can look at this and say, you know what? I'm going to just choose to view 2020 as a year of progress for humanity as a whole. I'm going to continue to look at 2020 as created opportunity and spaces for me to work and to do things that I otherwise never have been able to do before. And if we look at 2020 like that, it doesn't look like a year that held us back. It looks like a year that moved us forward. And I believe as time continues to go on, we're going to be able to view that and see that. So I want to once again thank you guys. Those of you who have listened this far, I want to thank you for choosing to be here with me today. I always enjoy speaking to you. I hope that this message will help you move forward and take a different perspective on 2020 in a positive way. And I look forward to speaking to you guys again soon. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And until next time, I'm out of here.
Thank you.